Ole Miss needs a commitment from this Indiana four-star super athlete today.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, the most watched Ole Miss podcast around. I'm your host, Steven Willis, a 10-year veteran member of the national media and a former Ole Miss staff member. On today's show, we talk about the most pivotal game of 2025 for the Ole Miss Rebels, and it comes in September. We'll break down why that matchup could define the Rebels season as we kick off wins and losses week as the Locked On Ole Miss podcast gives their official predictions for this season. We will give you a score prediction of every game and what makes that game tough or manageable and why it matters more than most. But first, we're going to talk about Jett Goldsberry, the Indiana super athlete who will make his commitment a little bit later on this evening. We'll explain why this guy is an absolute electric factory and what this addition could mean for the Ole Miss Rebels' future. And we're free and available on all the podcast apps and on YouTube. Thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen every day, and a special hello to the everydayers who make this show what it is. Do us a favor, like, subscribe, and comment on the video. It costs nothing but keeps this video free. Don't forget to check out a second listen on the network. Nearly every team, college or pro, is there for you to choose from. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. So we are in the heart of recruiting season. Sometimes that goes great. Sometimes it gets a little weird. Everybody saw over the weekend that Xavier McDonald, who was being RPM'd and crystal balled to Ole Miss all over the place, mentored by Shea Hodge from Morton, which is kind of an Ole Miss town, ends up going to Sacramento State. I don't know if that'll stick. I don't know what's going on with that entirely. But until a signature is on a piece of paper, you can't be mad about it. The people that talk about the commitments that Ole Miss is getting will wait until they sign before they get excited or mad, are real quick to get mad when another recruit commits to a different school. So we'll see exactly what happens there. But Xavier McDonald is currently committed to Brendan Marion and the Sacramento State Hornets, who are trying to move up to Division I. I think they were denied a waiver this year. But that's not the important thing. Ole Miss is on commitment watch as Jett Goldsberry will commit at like 5:30 Central Time today. The Indiana super athlete is going to name his school of choice. And looking at Jett Goldsberry, he's an athlete, like a true sense of the word athlete. He played quarterback in high school. He played free safety on defense. He is somebody that is more of a box safety. He plays with reckless abandonment. He is a four-star player on 3. He's a two-star on 247. ESPN has not ranked him, and Rivals, we don't know what's going on with Rivals at the moment because they are now a part of On 3. But Jett Goldsberry actually is the super athlete that, if you have followed this podcast for any length of time and you understand, when Ole Miss was in the recruitment of, say, Andy Jaffe, we talked about how this was the player that Wake Forest would get, and by the time he was a junior, he would be an all-SEC or all-ACC level player. Jett Goldsberry is kind of the same thing. He's a true box safety. And looking at it, he was the Heritage Hills, he was the Courier and Press Male Athlete of the Year. He accounted for 54 offensive touchdowns for the state champions. He was also a sectional regional champion and state qualifier in wrestling. He lost in the state championships in the round of 8, by the way. But this is just an unbelievable athlete. Whenever you look at a player like this, he is an unbelievable athlete. And when you look at the video of Jett Goldsberry, the first thing you notice is he plays defense with a little bit of reckless abandonment. Now, we mentioned earlier that there 54 offensive touchdowns were there, but we're going to concentrate on the defensive side of the ball because that is where I think he is going to end up when he gets to the next level. So you see somebody on defense running down the ball carrier whenever he gets the ball. It doesn't matter if he's on the side that the play is going or not. It doesn't matter. If you run away from him, he runs you down. If you run towards him, he makes a big hit. He loves contact, which in the game of football these days, it's a little bit of a rarity, somebody that really loves contact, and he plays the game that way. Listen, Jett Goldsberry has a chance. He has the athletic tools to be a star on defense for Ole Miss. This is the problem for Jett Goldsberry and the reason he is ranked where he is. People are going to look at it. It's like, why, if he's so good, why is he a 3-star on one service and not ranked on 2 of the others? He has a 5 in front of his name in front of a 6 instead of a 6. If he had a 6 in front of his name, he would be ranked a little bit higher. There's that size-speed ratio that happens in all sports these days, whether it's hockey, baseball, basketball, or football. There is a size-speed ratio that they are looking to hit, and he doesn't quite hit that as a super athlete. If he was 6'2", 210 pounds and plays football exactly the way he does now, he would be a 4-star top 200 player in the entire country. But the fact that he is 5'10", 180 pounds and plays football the way he does, everybody's worried about his sustainability and that the college level he might get hurt with the way he plays. I think Pete Golding sees him as an opportunity to unlock some potential there, to have that plug-and-play type player that you can move around the defense because of the athletic ability. The defensive back equivalent of a Suntarine Perkins, somebody that can handle multiple positions across the back line. I think that is what Pete Golding is looking for with this athlete. Listen, when you watch his high school tape, the first thing you know is every single play he is around the ball. His highlight video for his senior year was 20 minutes long. I will repeat that, a 20-minute long flash reel from his time in high school. Played quarterback on offense, played safety on defense, more of a box safety. He liked attacking the run overall, but he is a really good player and would be a really big pickup. On3 has him rated as a 4-star. We brought that up just a little bit earlier. 247 has him a little bit lower rated than that. Because of that, because he is not ranked on Rivals and ESPN, his consensus score is a 3-star. But On3 really likes this player, and honestly, you should like this player. Now, the interesting thing to me is the number 12 player in all of Indiana, and that means there's at least 12 4-star players in the state of Indiana. When he was on a visit, the wide receiver Guilford, Quade Guilford, was on the official visit with him. They took a picture together. Extremely excited about the college recruitment process. He's enjoyed his visits to Purdue and Rutgers and West Virginia and UNC, he is going to be choosing between tonight. Again, recruiting can get weird, and you always want to be in the top 2 of whatever you're recruiting against, but it's better to have a commitment than not have a commitment. So that is the reason we work at this level. I really like Jett Goldsberry. I think he has a chance to contribute day one when he steps on campus, at least on special teams. He is a guy that is going to be a star on punt coverage and kickoff coverage from the moment he walks on campus. He is a guy that has a chance to be really good on the back end of that defense. Now, the one question that I have about him, other than the size, is he did so much box safety and a lot of run game. I need to see his hands playing on the back of that defense. Now, he played quarterback, so that means he is used to catching a ball. But there's not a situation to where he gets a ton of interceptions, if that makes a lot of sense. But tonight at, I think, 5:30 Central Time, something like that, Jett Goldsberry is set to commit, and Ole Miss is well into it, even getting the crystal balls and RPMs along the way. Should be pretty fun for the Rebels. Listen, the season's right around the corner, and the roster is set, so it is time to go game by game and hand out some of our wins and losses predictions in July for Ole Miss this year. So stick around. You don't want to miss that. You know, we've all been there, logging on early and waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. So put your phone down. That is where Game Time comes in. Game Time takes getting concert tickets and makes it faster and easier than ever. The prices actually drop the closer it gets to showtime, and you can save up to 60% off with their killer last minute deals. You know, are you tired on your phone or scrolling trying to find that perfect deal? Try Game Time's zone deals. Pick the best seats in the section and allow them to do it for you. Take the guesswork out of buying concert tickets and show tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, so the roster is set. We are getting ready. Media days are a week away. They're going to be announcing the predicted order of finish in the preseason. So what better time for us to start going through the W's and L's? And the way this works, for people that are new to the channel, we do this each and every July before the football season. On Monday is going to be September. On Tuesday is going to be October. On Wednesday is going to be November. And on Thursday is going to be postseason. That's the way we do our W's and L's. On Friday, we are going to do SEC Media Days, getting ready for that with Lane Kiffin on Monday. He is going to be at SEC Media Days. But this is the last week before football season of kind of talking season, essentially. SEC Media Days gets underway next week, and we are very excited about that. Now, in September for 2025, Ole Miss has a ramp. They do have a ramp. They don't have the ramp that they had a year ago. They had preseason games a year ago, but they do have a ramp. They open up with Georgia State. They go to Kentucky, which is their only road game before the Georgia Bulldogs in October. They're back at home to play Arkansas. They're home against Tulane, and they are home against LSU. Those are the 5 games that are on the schedule early in the season, and we are going to look at those games. We're going to start with Georgia State, the Panthers out of Atlanta, Georgia. Ole Miss goes into this game a 37.5-point favorite on FanDuel Sports with an over-under of about 61.5 points. The defense for Ole Miss is going to be good this year. Everybody needs to realize that Ole Miss is going to reload a little bit on the defense this season. This will be Austin Simmons' first start, the new running backs, the new wide receivers, the revamped offensive line. There's a lot of questions that are going to get answered in this game. Austin Simmons' first game is the main thing. The reason why it's important, to get your feet wet, to get it going, he needs to have a good game. The reason I point that out, the last time after a generational quarterback, another quarterback got hyped up was Michael Spurlock. Now, I do not expect Austin Simmons to be Michael Spurlock, but there are Ole Miss fans that are going to watch this first game and make sure a disaster game doesn't happen. So it's going to be important for Austin Simmons to play well, whether it be Caden Lee on the outside catching absolutely everything. You avoid the dropsies on the outside with Deshaun Stribling and Harrison Wallace III. Maybe get some young guys into the game to where the backup quarterbacks get to play. Maybe Malachi Smith gets into this game. It is going to be important for Ole Miss to play well to start this season. There's a little bit of ramp. Like I said, there's a ramp. Georgia State's not as good as Kentucky, which is not as good as Arkansas, which is not as good as Tulane, which is not as good as LSU. Your ramp is there, but there are consequential games in September, and it starts with the Georgia State Panthers. Malachi Smith, Austin Simmons, they need to have a good game. They need to answer some questions on defense. This will be our first look at the defensive secondary. We're probably going to nitpick a little bit on performance based off of this game. It's just a natural thing. After last season, when Ole Miss honestly had a 12-0 roster on the field, 12-0 roster going 9-3 and missing the playoffs, we are going to nitpick in games more than we did a year ago. That's just natural and the way it goes. Now, this game, final score prediction, I think Ole Miss is going to win the game 52-10. You'll have a big day from Austin Simmons. The defense is going to play well. Georgia State's touchdown, I think, will be against the second or third team as the game goes on. You'll see some of the outside weapons, and the running game is really going to stand out for Ole Miss in this game. The second game of the season is a road trip to Kentucky. And everybody that followed 2024 knows exactly how the Kentucky game went a year ago in Oxford, which is weird because it almost went the exact same way in 2022, where Jared Ivey had to sack the quarterback to save a game, or Kentucky was going to win that one at the end as well. In Lexington, it's been a little bit of a different story for Ole Miss. Now, Ole Miss, I think, is better than Kentucky. Ole Miss was better than Kentucky a year ago. So it's going to be important. I think one of the benefits that Ole Miss is going to have in this game is that Jackson Dart liked to throw the ball deep in 2022 and 2024 and 2023. That he liked to throw the ball down the field. Kentucky knew that, and they were pretty good at taking that away. Austin Simmons is going to be a little bit of a different quarterback, a little bit quicker processing, a little bit of more willingness to take the underneath stuff. I think this offense is going to click a little bit against the Kentucky Wildcats. Now, Zach Calzada has been brought in to be their starting quarterback. And that is important because Zach Calzada is a two-time washout in the SEC. This is a game that I think that Ole Miss might struggle with early, but Ole Miss will ultimately pull away in. Ole Miss 31, Kentucky 17 to start the season 2-0. I think if Ole Miss gets by Kentucky, they can exhale a little bit. Of all the revenge games that Ole Miss has to play, Florida and LSU, the Kentucky game is just a get-past game. I always talk about how LSU is the game that Ole Miss fans most want to win, and the Mississippi State game is the game that Ole Miss fans most don't want to lose. That is what this is with Kentucky. They do not want to lose this game. That Kentucky game was a scar on the psyche of the Ole Miss players. If Ole Miss gets past it, when they get past it, I think they can kind of turn it up a little bit. Now, the next game is the Arkansas Razorbacks. And Ole Miss went up to Fayetteville a year ago and absolutely obliterated the Hogs. It was crazy. Yeah, Jackson Dart setting just about every record passing that Ole Miss quarterbacks can set. You had Jordan Watkins breaking the all-time receiving yardage, the all-time touchdown yardage. It was obliteration. That's what that game was. And Arkansas knows that. Sam Pittman's going to have them ready to play. They are going to be ready to go against Ole Miss and Vaught-Hemingway, which they traditionally play pretty well in Vaught-Hemingway. Better than Ole Miss plays in Reynolds Razorback Stadium generally. So Sam Pittman having them ready to play, and Jalen Braxton and Patrick Kutas and Luke Haas all transferred to Ole Miss in the offseason. There's going to be a little bit of vinegar when it comes to Arkansas in this game. I think this game has a chance to be closer than the experts think. I think Ole Miss is going to put a lot of effort into the Kentucky game because of what happened. And when they come back to Oxford after what they did to Arkansas a year ago, this game is going to be a little bit of a war. Now, just poetically, I think the stars in this game for Ole Miss is going to be Jalen Braxton and Luke Haas. Those two players are going to be a big reason why Ole Miss wins this ball game. But it's going to be one of those games that is tight to the very end. I'm calling a picked off pass by Jalen Braxton in the fourth quarter to ice it. Ole Miss 27, Arkansas 21. Good stuff coming up. And when we come back from the break, we are going to continue with the Tulane game, and we are going to talk about the most pivotal game of this season. Our final segment, the LSU game, this season feels like what the Georgia matchup was supposed to be in 2024. Massive stakes, major implications. We break that all down next. All right, welcome back to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. I'm your host, Steven Willis. Hey, real quick, give us a like, subscribe, comment, all of that down below. It makes the podcast be able to stay free, and we like to have a good time with what we're doing. We work really hard to do this. We'd appreciate that very much. 2 more games in September to go. We have Ole Miss at 3-0 outside the gate. The next is the Cajun series, where you have Tulane and LSU back-to-back. And Tulane is a sexy pick to be a team that can upset a Power 4 opponent. But here is the problem for the Tulane Green Wave. They are going to be good. Of this, I have no doubts. John Summerall is their coach, and because he is their coach, they are going to be well coached. He's going to recruit well. They're going to be a very solid team. Darian Mensah, though, their quarterback from a year ago that was so good that caused them to almost beat Kansas State early in the season, transferred to the Duke Blue Devils. One smart school to the other. And they brought in one of the quarterbacks that had been passed around for the last 10 years, it seems like. And now it's a little bit iffy at the quarterback position. Mekhi Hughes transferred out of Tulane and went to Oregon. So if you lose Mensah and you lose Hughes, that is something we need to keep an eye on. I don't think Tulane is going to be as good as the experts think. They just have been good recently. They've kind of owned the American Conference, or whatever version the American is right now. So we'll see exactly how that goes. This game, I got Ole Miss winning this game pretty easily, 42-14 over the Tulane Green Wave in Oxford. This is a game that I expect Ole Miss to score a ton of points, and to score a ton of points pretty quickly. I figure this game is over by halftime, so we will see how it goes. I don't like that Tulane loses their quarterback and their running back in the same offseason, and they're just expected to be good. I think TJ Finley was their quarterback and is not their quarterback now. We'll see what's going on there. So that leads us to the most important game of the season for the Ole Miss Rebels, and that is the game against the LSU Tigers. LSU and Ole Miss are side by side in whatever computer ranking that you want to listen to, that you want to look at. It seems like one's 13, one's 14, one's 15, one's 16, one's 9, one's 10. It doesn't matter which ranking you look at computer-wise, those two teams are side by side. And when you look at the betting line from FanDuel, Ole Miss is currently a 1.5 favorite over the LSU Tigers. It is as even of a football game as you can have. And for Ole Miss to make the playoffs in 2025, to make the run that the Ole Miss fans all want to see happen, Ole Miss has to be undefeated at the end of September. They absolutely cannot afford a loss in the month of September. I know Kentucky, I know Arkansas, I know LSU. That's 3 conference games, but Ole Miss must start 3-0 in the Southeastern Conference before October. Because if they drop one of those games, they still have at Georgia. They still have at Oklahoma. They still have South Carolina. They still have Florida. They still have teams that are good enough to beat you. Ole Miss absolutely must make it to the Georgia game undefeated, to where there's a little bit of a margin of error, to where you only have to go 2-2 against Georgia, South Carolina, Oklahoma, and Florida. Take care of business like you think. Get to the Georgia game undefeated, and this football team can do exactly what we think. Listen, I really like Garrett Nussmeier as a quarterback. I really do. I think he is going to be an absolute stud. The one little bit of pause that I have in his game was against Florida when one offensive lineman got taken out. Florida's defensive line got to do a little work, and they put pressure on him to the tune of sacking him 8 or 9 times. So when the offensive line is not perfect, is he going to be good, or will he be quick to drop his head? That is literally the only concern I have about Garrett Nussmeier. He has put up good numbers against A. Pete Golding defense, including a year ago. The year before that, Jaden Daniels put up good numbers against A. Pete Golding defense. This LSU offense really knows how to attack a Pete Golding defense. So the answer is pressure on the quarterback from the Ole Miss defensive line. It's a big game for Suntarine Perkins. It's a big game for Jam Brown and Cam Franklin, Xavion Harris. Those guys have to make the quarterback for LSU sweat a little bit. Listen, I like LSU's running back, their wide receivers. They have Barry and Brown over there, who has been a thorn in the Rebels' side when he played at Kentucky. They might not have anything else going on, but they have that. But this LSU team is going to be pretty good. It's going to come down to their defense at LSU. I think at Ole Miss is going to come down to their offense. So in the LSU Ole Miss game, it will be best versus best. And needing to be good versus needing to be good. Again, two teams that are at a whole the same team. To where you have questions in certain areas, you need to see some stuff, you have some players that are really good, but you have to see what happens whenever you get it on the field. Brian Kelly has not won a game in Oxford, Mississippi. Heck, LSU hasn't won a game in Oxford, Mississippi this decade. It's a situation where the Lane Kiffin has made Oxford and bought Hemingway a tough place to go. If your name's not Alabama, I think he lost the very first game of his 2020 season to Florida. But against the SEC, he has had a pretty good record consistently, especially at home. And it will be imperative, especially with Kentucky, Arkansas, and LSU, for a 5-0 trip through September. This is what I think. I think Ole Miss is going to beat LSU. I think they're going to beat them 38-34. It's going to be a shootout. I know the over-under is not quite that high. I think this is a situation where there could be a little bit back and forth as well. But again, here's the top 5 games of the season. That's WWWWW. I've got Ole Miss 5-0 coming out of September. They need to beat Washington State, and then it gets really real. Now, don't get me wrong. This isn't the 2024 schedule. It's not a preseason schedule to where you have Furman and when you have Wake Forest and Middle Tennessee and all of that. Georgia Southern. Georgia State, that's a pretty good opener. And the 1AA team and down at the bottom of the season, you need that after coming off at Georgia, at Oklahoma, and South Carolina. You're going to need the break before you get to Florida. So this schedule lines up pretty well for Ole Miss to be pretty good. So I will see exactly how that goes. I do think Ole Miss will be 5-0 coming out of September. I think Ole Miss will be undefeated, honestly. Little spoiler alerts and more. I think they'll be undefeated when they get to Georgia as well. Georgia is the only game on the schedule that has come out that Ole Miss is an underdog in. So that should tell you absolutely everything about where the betting services are, where the computers are. The only people that are not high on Ole Miss right now are the people that got burned last year, because journalists, above everything else, do not like getting burned. Anyway, thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your go-to source for Ole Miss sports. We pride ourselves in offering the most comprehensive perspectives, which is why we're the front door of Ole Miss. Do not forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Keep the show totally and completely free. Your support means the world to us. For your second listen, check out the Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. Be the most informed fan on the rapid changes in college football. Find the Portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Hotty toddy, everybody. And remember, analytics is just the old English word that means bad football. We'll see you tomorrow.